Hello everyone, welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. In this one, we're taking a look at Arakni Slip Through the Cracks, the newest promo hero inside of Flesh and Blood. Arakni Slip Through the Cracks is a new version of Arakni that's a little similar to Arakni Solitary Confinement all the way back from Outsiders, but he has a few differences. Arakni has already seen a lot of results and has been doing pretty damn well. And I thought it's better to take a look at this one before we take a look at Marionette, because similar to the other Draconic decks in the Hunted, he's pretty aggressive. So I thought it'd be better to go over all of the aggro decks before we went over the one slower mid-range deck. So we're starting today with Arakni Slip Through the Cracks. Arakni is a 38 health and 4 intellect Chaos Assassin hero. This means that he's able to play the new suite of, I think, 3 total Chaos cards. Or actually 2 total Chaos cards, which one we're not playing. As well as he gets pretty much the same health pool as Arakni Solitary Confinement, who is a 19 health Blitz hero. However, Solitary Confinement does have a different ability, because Arakni Slip Through the Cracks reads, the first attack with stealth each turn gets go again. Not the first attack with stealth you play each turn gets go again. Which means versus assassin matchups, you're kind of going to fall a little flat because their stealth attacks are going to get go again too. But that is perfectly fine because this deck is chock full of disruption and high damage that'll force the opponent to not play very high card hands. That's the good thing about this Arakni. You're a good aggressive deck. Even though your numbers aren't the highest, you have a lot of tricks and a lot of disruption to chip down and disrupt the opponent. For your equipment, Hunter's Clave is going to be the main dagger we're playing. We have a lot of marked synergy cards, so Hunter's Clave is just the best thing we can be playing. I will say, though, Hunter's Clave is expensive, and since you're planning to flick these, you could play one Mark of the Huntsman instead of one of the Hunter's Claves, because if you're going to flick that dagger anyway, it's fine to just flick that and keep your one Hunter's Clave. 2 Hunter's Clave is the best, but again, they are expensive, so I'd understand if you couldn't get access to 2. I would recommend getting at least 1, though, so you can have a reliable mark if you do need to swing with your dagger. For the equipment, Mask of Deceit is going to be the best helmet here. Even though you aren't Arakni Marionette, you do have access to the Agents of Chaos. All of the Arachnis do, even Huntsman. So, these Agents of Chaos still get really good effects. If the opposing hero is marked, we get to choose which one, making this just an insanely powerful card. We can get a trap in matchups we need it with Trapdoor, get more damage with pretty much all the other ones, or a bit of disruption. For our chest piece, we're on Tunic. Even though we are playing a deck that wants to flick daggers a lot, it's not like we're going to be able to make a whole ton of them to keep using it. And there really is only, I think, like 1 card in the deck that in the main board that costs 1, being Spike with Bloodrot. So we realistically don't need it. Oh, I guess we could use it for pick up the point as well to get a dagger back, but we don't need the 1 resource a hell of a lot, so Tunic is a lot better. For our glove, we're playing Flick Knives all the way. The name of the deck I chose was Big Day for Flick Knives. It's just like the best thing to play, especially because it lets you flick Kiss of Death, but we'll talk about that one later. And then finally, Snapdragon Scalers, a list that did really well at Christchurch. I believe it was a calling as well. Played this and Black Tech Whispers. I opted just for Snapdragon Scalers for a little more sideboard space, but Black Tech Whispers offer a on hit go again, making them a little more consistent, but they have 1 extra block, which can be important to stop some hit effects. Which is why they're played. They're better into aggro decks than snaps, but snaps are better into slower decks. You can just play snaps, though. The main goal of them is to give something go again. Now let's take a look at the main board. You'll notice we have a lot of red cards because you want to play a lot of your stealth attacks. No stealth attack has more than 3 base power, so you're just throwing out head jabs with Go Again, pretty much, thanks to the Arakni, but they do have some pretty good hit effects or other disruptive effects. So let's start with the stealth attacks, starting with, from left to right, Art of Desire Body. Body is a... Oh, by the way, all of these are 3 power, 3 block, and cost 0, and have stealth. Body has an on-hit of hero to banish the top card of that hero's deck, and whenever this banishes a red card, you draw a card and gain a life. Since most decks right now are built around reds, considering draconic cards, or just play a lot of reds because that's how you win a game, Art of Desire Body is incredibly live. We are also on Art of Desire Mind in our blues, but since they are technically different cards, even though they are versions of the same card, they are separated here and are different. Backstab is just a simple attack that makes defense reactions unplayable on this chain link. Compared to Isolate, which was another stealth card that you might think would be pretty good in this list, Backstab actually gets a lot more use because since they can't react on Backstab, they'll need to put their cards face up into it, and if this has Go Again, you just don't have to play your reactions on the Backstab. Since they can't react over, you can easily land some reactions on it. Isolate lets them still be able to play a defense reaction from their arsenal, which makes it a little worse. And this deck actually isn't on Isolate because of that. Infect is an on-hit to just inflict a Blood Rot Pox. It's the only poison stealth attack we're actually playing because it's just more damage. If they take a hit, they either lose 3 resource on their next turn or they take 2. So it's just a very powerful on-hit. Kiss of Death is the main stealth attack we need to look at. Kiss of Death says an on-hit to make that hero lose a life, but it's notable that Kiss of Death is a dagger attack. This means that you're able to use Flick Knives to flick Kiss of Death, which means you'll trigger the on-hit. We aren't playing it, but Savor Bloodshed would also pump Kiss of Death. Any dagger pump is playable on Kiss of Death. The other thing to note is things like Spike with Blood Rot or Toxicity that give the attack an on-hit. Kiss of Death will see those and keep them, so when you flick the Kiss of Death, they will trigger. If you play a Toxicity into a Kiss of Death, and then say they block the Kiss of Death, sure, on your next attack, you can flick the Kiss of Death. They take 1 from the Flick Knives damage, and then because it hit them, they take another 1 from the Kiss of Death, and another 5 from the Toxicity. Same thing with Spike with Blood Rot. They'll get another Blood Rot Pox token. That's the main thing that Arakni Solitary Confinement wants to do. He wants to be an aggressive, disruptive deck, and then when he finds his big damage combo of Kiss of Death plus bonus on hit, he wants to throw that for a lot of damage. That's the main thing you're spending Tunic on, is that Spike with Blood Rot for the Kiss of Death. And it's not like these go away either. It keeps it for the whole turn. So if you actually hit with the Kiss of Death with the Toxicity or the Spike, they'll get the token or the extra damage, and then you can just flick it later. So Kiss of Death is a very good card. Probably the best card inside of Arakni Solitary... not Solitary Confinement. Arakni Slip Through the Cracks. Next is Mark of the Black Widow. This is an on-hit of marked hero to banish a card from their hand. Just a very simple disruptive effect. We're not playing Mark of the Funnel Web, which is the Arsenal version of this card, mainly because a lot of people won't be arsenaling versus you anyway, because, you're Assassin. There's a lot of stuff, mainly things like Leave No Witness, see Command and Conquer, which is in the board here. We'll talk about it later. Disrupting from hand is just a lot better in this type of deck. And then the last red stealth attack is Prowl, because it just gives your next stealth attack you play this turn +1, so you get some extra value. The Christchurch list played Infiltrate instead of Prowl. I like Prowl because it's a little more consistent, but Infiltrate definitely works pretty well as well. We do play some other red attacks inside of this deck. Leave No Witness is the most common one. I think this at this point is the second or most played assassin card, next to Codex being this either second or most played assassin card. I guess technically this has been played longer, so it is the most played, but this is just one of the best cards in the entire game. It's an 0 for 4. The contract doesn't matter. On hit, you'll banish their arsenal. The reason it's so powerful is because of Codex of Frailty, but it's also a breakpoint arsenal disruption. So it's just so important. It's such a powerful card. The last red attack in the deck is Pick Up the Points, just as a way to get our daggers back so we can flick them again later. We do have some other attacks in the deck, mainly from our blue suite. Because we are playing just a Nick, we are on 9 blue 1 power attacks. We're on the best ones possible. Art of Desire Mind is the same as Body, just it wants to check blue cards. This is the weakest of them. I could easily see it be replaced for a different 1 power stealth attack, but because Art of Desire Mind does have the chance to draw you a card so you can keep an arsenal or keep going your turn, it is definitely powerful. Bonds of Agony is one of the best in the game. Lets us just take 3 cards out of our opponent's deck entirely. It gets pretty much 4 power on its own as long as we can react, which, I mean, we're deck built on reactions. We can use our Flick Knives. We can use any reaction from our hands. I guess we can play Snappies as well, just to pump it up. Do be careful, though, if they can stop it, because you are spending a lot to pump it. But if you can guarantee that it hits, you're in a very good spot. And then Persuasive Prognosis is, again, just a very good stealth attack. Banish the top card of their deck, and then you look at their hand and banish a card of the same color. And then you get life if it banishes actions. Just really good value. Persuasive Prognosis as well, a very good blue assassin attack. Of course, this wouldn't be assassin without reactions, so let's talk about those. Justinic is a reaction that can pump up any attack action with power 1 or less, base power 1 or less, to get +5, letting you pump your blue 1s to 6s, as well as it can give any stealth attack and on hit to banish the top card of their deck. Technically, you can play that on Kiss of Death, but don't do that. It's mainly for this first effect so we can make our blue attacks actually do some insane damage or pump them over to hit. Razor's Edge is just a free +3 to any stealth attack. Every attack in the main board except Leave No Witness and Pick Up the Point has stealth, and we're not playing Razor's Edge on Pick Up the Point ever, nor would we want to. So it's fine. You can't pop Leave No Witness, but you want to spend this on your actual stealth hit effects, or just get damage through it like Backstab or something. Spike with Blood Rot is here because it pumps up your Kiss of Death really nicely, as well as can just be played on any of your other stealth attacks. Tarantula Toxin is a choose one or both that gives a dagger attack +3 or a card defending a stealth attack -3 block. This, of course, is kind of like Yellow Shred, which we are on in this deck, but it also has the advantage to be able to pump up a dagger. We can get a stealth dagger with some of the Arakni effects, as well as things like Orb-Weaver Spinneret, so both effects can be live if need be, making this sort of like a +6 pump. Moving on to yellow, Shred is just a defense stopping thing. This can be played on Leave No Witness, which is pretty nice, and it just pretty much cancels out one of their 3-card blocks. And then finally, the last reaction in the deck is Take Up the Mantle. This is an incredibly powerful card. Another reason why we want those dagger marking synergies. This pretty much, if the opposing hero is marked, lets you swap any of your stealth attack actions for another stealth attack action in your graveyard, letting you just make things into things like Bonds of Agony, Persuasive Prognosis, makes your Justinic more live. You can turn things into Kiss of Death as well. So it just lets you recycle so many things, and is one of just, again, the best cards you can be playing. The last few cards in the deck are just some more actions or consistency pieces. Or Weaver Spinneret gives our next stealth attack +3, as well as equips a Graphene Chelicera. That's the 1 cost to attack stealth dagger that gets to go again if it's attacking a marked hero. Generally, you'll flick that, but you can also just swing with it if need be later in the game. This is mainly here for its 3 power pump, though. Toxicity is here because of its synergy alongside Kiss of Death, but if you really need to, you can play it on one of your other stealth attacks. Actually, it's any assassin attack, so it can even work on Leave No Witness if you codex them out. Speaking of which, we are on 3 Codex of Frailty. This card is like a non-starter. If you don't have them, you kind of need this card for Assassin at this point because of just how broken this card is. It lets you get something back from your graveyard because you're the one playing it. You won't have to discard. You might make your opponent discard, and then you get to Leave No Witness, and you just swing it at them and then take the card they arsenaled, or more cards from their hand. It also lets you keep an arsenal because you get a Ponder token, and it gives them a Frailty token so that if they did keep everything, their turn is weaker. It's just such a powerful card. The last card in the deck is 1 Schism of Chaos. This is simply here because every card in this deck is pretty much playable, reaction, action, or not. So Schism of Chaos, except Schism, of course, but if you're pitching it, you're never putting it into your arsenal from its own effect. Schism just gives you a free card once in a while. Yes, it can give your opponent a free card, but oh well, Schism's pretty good. I guess it's bad if you draw it off Ponder, but who cares, bro? It's a 1 in 59 chance, or won't be at that point, but just keep it in your hand. Overall, I think the main board for Arakni Solitary Confinement is very strong. You have really good disruption in the Leave No Witness, the Mark of the Black Widow, as well as some of your blue attacks. And you just have good damage because of the Infect, Backstab, Prowl, Kiss of Death stuff. That just let you hit for a lot of damage, and partnering with Flick Knives very, very well. Finally, let's talk about the inventory. For your inventoried equipment, we are playing the Widowback Abdomen, Widow Veil Respirator, and Widow Web Crawler. These are the AB1 Spell Void equipment from Rosetta for the chest, head, and legs. The reason we're on these is because Flick Knives is our most important piece. If you needed AB1, you could easily swap out the chest piece, I believe, is what they swap out into Runeblade. But you could also do the shoe. I do think the go again is a little important, though, so that one's up to you. But into Wizard, you just want all 3 because you're not blocking with the headpiece again, or into Kano. Other Wizards, up to you. You're not going to be blocking with the headpiece versus a deck that plays very little amount of attacks. The go again isn't as important as saving your lone life, and the chest piece again, you're not really going to ever use it. And you want to keep Flick Knives with Double Dagger because it lets you get more damage through. For the other cards in the inventory, we have 1 Inertia Trap and 2 Shelter from the Storm. These are here for some defensive options when we need defense reactions, decks that like Runeblade that have a lot of rune chance, we want Shelter, but also any deck that can go a little taller. Inertia Trap can just shut down their arsenal, which can stop a lot of setup, which is really nice, as well as Inertia Trap can be tutored off of Arachne Trapdoor if need be when we are playing our Mask of Deceit. For these, you can just go down one of these red cards. Most likely, if you're going up the D-Reacts, the game's going to be a little later, so you want to keep your Kiss of Death combos. I could see going down just a nick, but again, if the game's going later, you'll have more time to get these blues off. You could go down Prowl or like Infect, maybe, or even like Orb Weaver Spinner. It's honestly up to you. You could also just add them. I think that's perfectly fine as well. Pick to Pieces is an anti-damage prevention. This will only come in versus our Illusionist matchups because they have a lot of damage prevention, and this one's very easy to block. There's not really much to explain. Put this in over one of your old stealth attacks. Command and Conquer is a popper, but also really good disruption. This will come in versus slower matchups because you just blow up their arsenal. Anything that lets you set up it in your codex, or just that's good against naturally. CNC is very powerful. You don't need it versus aggro. I'd rather have more damage against them. Again, same cuts for everything else pretty much. Very simple. I really like CNC in this deck because of that, but again, as I say in every video, if you don't own CNCs, you can easily play a different replacement. Honestly, I think in this deck it might be just more tech cards, because poppers have been less and less relevant. Yes, they're good against Prism, but like they're not really that useful against Enigma. And you know, the effects on the 2-for-6s kind of falls off in this deck, I feel, because you're already disrupting them so much. Something like an Erase Face is going to fall a little flat, I think. But if you have the CNCs, play them. If you have Erase Face, if you have the other ones, you can play those instead as your other tech cards. But I think other tech cards could be fine, like a third Shelter, which I know is expensive. Like the last video, you can play some amount of sync blows over these, but I think you do want to Shelter if you can, because you need these for like Runeblade matchup. I think they're very good into. Or like an extra Poison the Well or whatever have you. And then the last card in the sideboard is Poison the Well, just because Count Your Blessings is still very good, especially into this deck, because this deck doesn't have the most damage. You can sometimes lose if they gain enough life, so Poison the Well can help you against those matchups. Go down just some of your blues. Probably Art of Desire Mines over Poison the Well. And with all that, I did try to talk a little fast here, because I feel like Arakni is a very simple deck to understand. It is a very easy to play deck, but a very potent one. There are a lot of things you can set up to get some really big combos off. Again, the Kiss of Death plus these on-hits are very good. You just have good disruption with all of your Assassin cards, your Codex, your Leave No Witness, your Mark of the Black Widow plus Flick Knives. Very potent. A lot of these cards will be cards we see in Arakni Marionette, because the idea for the list is very similar, but they do play incredibly different. So we'll see that again in 2 weeks. But for now, that is going to be the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.